And I think it has to do with Michigan State, I think, is going to give Michigan best, biggest roundhouse shot. Childs is a problem. Nick Marsh is a problem for any defense. And I think this game can lend itself to that superhuman out-of-body experience where you separate from the physical world and exist on a parallel plane for 60 minutes and do things. And the recent prime example is Rocky Lombardi to Ricky White in the game in the COVID year in front of nobody at the Big House. I was there. But I think, the best version of Michigan State, I think, shows up on Saturday. And I think this is a close football game. And if you're in Michigan's case, you just find a way to try to win the game. Like there's you look at the rest of the schedule. Michigan's playing for, whether you think it's legitimate or not, Michigan's playing to get to that play-in game against Ohio State. Their goals right now, if they are 9-2 going into the last game against Ohio State and they beat Ohio State, that becomes a strong playoff resume. Now, the fact is, I love when people say, oh, is that going to be enough to get in the playoff? I don't know. Tell me what everybody else does. Right? You can't do that until you know who you're being considered against and what their resumes look like.
You start looking at all the one-loss teams and then all the two-loss teams. There's some really good teams out there with 2 losses. And when you have 2 really tough conferences like the Big Ten and the SEC, there's still a lot of cannibalism that has to come. And we might see 3-loss team make the playoff. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I think we might see it this year because there's some really quality college football teams out there. But what it really does is it creates an interesting conversation when they start having those conversations about the college football playoff and who belongs and who doesn't. And then you get the at-large teams that have done all that they can, a BYU, for instance, or a South Florida or whatever, Georgia Tech. These teams have done all that they can, and if they end up being undefeated or with 1 loss, they're going to have a strong argument, even though there'll be teams from the SEC with 3.